Good morning. My name is Bonnie, and I will be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the CA Client Management Global User Community Webcast. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question during this time, simply press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, press the pound key. Thank you. I would now like to turn the conference over to Dana Gibson. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Client Management Global User Community. This morning, Laurel Gentry is going to talk about videos that support engineers are posting, an exciting video competition for community members, and then she'll turn it over to Rich Lechner with the SWAT team to talk about health monitoring, location awareness, and replication in the new 12.8 release. And we were going to demo and discuss the ideas board, but I think we have enough with the things I've mentioned. Also, if you're going to ask a question, please use the Q&A tab rather than the chat. And I'll now turn it over to Laurel.
Hi, thanks, Dana, and welcome everyone to this October meeting. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Time is flying too quickly anyway. We wanted to go over some things today that we're doing on the community, and now I need to figure out how to navigate through the slides.
It just used the arrows at the top.
There you go. All right. So there were a couple of things that I wanted to go over that we have added to the community site. One is that our support engineers are creating videos that are task-based scenarios walking you through how to do certain specific scenarios with the product. There are actually 2 ways that you can get to these videos that are being published. One is from the community site. So you just go into message boards. It's under the Client Management General Discussion Board. We have made the postings sticky so that they bubble up to the top of that message board, and the post is CA ITCM videos published. We are publishing these on the CA YouTube channel, so you can also get to them directly through navigation to YouTube. So this is what you'll see on the community site. So we have a number of videos out there right now, integration with Active Directory, deploying a batch file in a software delivery package, integration with Service Desk, agent installation, and some printer inventory collection tasks. You can also log on to YouTube and just in your search type CA Technologies ITCM, and these videos are also available directly from YouTube on any device that you may be using. We would also like to solicit, go out there, make comments on them, request other task-based scenarios that you would like to see recorded, and we can get those recorded and published also. Another thing that we have added as a separate communication channel are the Flipboards. This is an application for smart devices, your smartphones, your tablets. You can get the free Flipboard application on your tablet or smartphone. When you install that application, just simply search for CA Technologies Information Services. Our doc writers are publishing articles, and Client Automation is one of the first products for CA to go on these Flipboards. So take a look at what we have out there. I know our first article was published on what our 12.8 roadmap is. 12.8 is our next release, which is targeted for release in December. So take a look at that. I also wanted to, on this meeting, launch an online community video contest today. So we would like anyone out there that has some great ideas, something cool, unique, time-saving, increases your efficiency, anything you're doing with Client Automation ITCM that you would like to share, please record a 2 to 5 minute video. Tell us how you're using the product to meet your business objectives. Take us through the scenario, what you're doing to implement your idea with Client Automation, and then post this video in the Solutions General Discussion message board. We just need you to create the title with video before it, and then your title for what the video is. Post that on the site. our support group will be judging these. And the judgment criteria they're using are usefulness, innovativeness, and the ability for other clients to use this content to increase their efficient use of the product. We'd also like them to adhere to best practices. And then also, even though our support team is going to be judging these to determine the winner, please comment on your favorite videos. If you find something extremely helpful and applicable to your environment, please comment on those. Your comments from the community will be taken into consideration on judging these videos. The contest is running from today through November 15th, so you have until midnight on November 15th to post your video. We will be announcing the contributors, everyone who submitted a video, and a little synopsis about what that video content is, as well as the winner on November 18th on the community site. So please watch the community site for further updates. The winner will receive an iPad. We are also in flight on development of our next release, which again is targeted for release in December of this year. We are about to enter into a beta period. The beta will run through November 11th through December 6th. I have the registration link on this presentation, so afterwards, certainly access this presentation, which will be posted on the community site, and register. We have had some people who have registered that get an already registered message from our beta tracker program system. So if you get that message and you want to participate in the beta, please reach out to me directly. And I have my email address here. Just reach out to me directly and I can manually validate you and get you signed up for participation in that beta. It is a short beta period, so please take into consideration how much time you'll have to be testing and which features you want to test. The features, we have quite a range of features in this release, and a lot of features that have been being asked for the last 12 to 18 months, so we're very excited about this release. At this point, I would like to turn it over to Richard Lechner. And Mary, I think you'll need to transfer leadership to Rich, or do I do that?
I can do it.
Okay. And Rich is going to be taking us through some of the features that we're implementing in 12.8 and show you some quick demos. Again, there are a lot of features in this release, so I will turn it over to Rich at this point, and he can take us through the feature synopsises and give us some real demos of live working code that we're working on currently. So, Rich, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. I'm getting some pop-up thing here. Got to let this finish. I don't know what it's doing, but as soon as it finishes, I'll share my screen and move on.
Just as we're waiting for that, some of the formats that work well for video submissions are just record them in MPV4 or in AVI to post those. Whatever you find most convenient as a video format, go ahead and use that, and we're really excited to see your entries start coming in.
Is my screen available? So.
Not yet, Rich.
Share.
It is starting to come up.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Just painting rather slowly. All right, you're on, Rich.
Okay. Yeah, some of these slides will just covered, so I'll skip through these. Here's a disclaimer. Just this is code that's not released yet, so this is just a long explanation to tell you that. Okay, previously released in a patch was support for the Linux pre-boot environment. We're going to be formally announcing it again when 12.8 comes out, so that's why I've included here. But this allows you to do Pixie to be able to build images without using ImageX for VMware, Red Hat, etc. ImageX is only allowable for Windows 8, Windows 12, server, and client, Windows 7 as well. So therefore, we had to have another alternative. So we came up with the Linux pre-boot environment, which uses CentOS instead of ImageX. We've also added support, DMM support for Windows 8 and Office 2013. Okay, in 12.8, we've added platform and version support. So we're upgrading to support newer versions of Tomcat, newer versions of JRE, well, you can read the list here, the Tomcat connector. We've added more certifications for Windows 8, Server 2012, Oracle Linux 6.4, and again, they're listed here. We've added Windows. Basically, you're now able to inherit permissions from the directory above within the software library, where in the past you'd have to set the permissions at each level. So now we've added permission inheritance. There's obviously been some legacy and generic issue fixing within the solution. We've added support to now be able to support CABI 3.3. So in 12.8, the CABI 3.3, that's the newer versions of CABI that's being used by Surface Desk and some of the other solutions. Also added agent support for Oracle Sun Directory Server, Microsoft SQL Server 2012 support, agent for Solaris 11, X64, and Spark. And these are just some of the ones that I've picked as highlighted ones. There's some other ones as well that are listed, which will be in the README once the solution is released. Okay, we've added location awareness into the solution. I know many of you have been using the field developed utility for years. It's been an ongoing. Fields have developed it, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago at least, and we've had multiple versions of it. But we've now included location awareness in the within the base code itself. You would define it in your configuration file. So basically, you'd use the configurator in the GUI, and then you would assign IP ranges for individual machines. You can set the priority of rules. So, for an example, if a machine is in such and such an IP range, if it can't find scalability server A, then it will fall to the priority of the second rule, which is priority. The second priority. We have basically priorities of 0 through 99. So I can't believe that anybody need 99 different levels of priority, but it does exist in case you do have a very complex environment where that would be necessary. The rules get evaluated whenever there's an address change. They also get evaluated on a schedule. So it typically uses it does use the CAF scheduler. So just how you set how often the CAF asset management agent runs and the registration agent runs, you would also set when or how often to validate that you're still communicating with the proper scalability server. Also on location awareness, we now have, I don't know the official name of it, but it's a scalability server ping basically. So it will go out and the agent will go out and determine the closest scalability server based on response time. So if it's looking for scalability servers in a range of like in this example, 139.119.30.0 to 30.100, it'll find all the scalability servers that respond as a scalability server in that range, and then figure out which one has the fastest response time, and then that would be the scalability server that it chooses. You can also specify that the agent should not change domains. So there's a flag within location awareness to say whether that agent should be allowed to change domains or not. So if it finds a scalability server, but that scalability server is pointing to a different domain, then it will not make the change. Replication. We've made a number of changes in replication to improve the quality and speed of replication. Less errors, and if there are errors, you get notified of the errors. And we've and also in performance, we made a number of changes. Okay, so improved performance of data and job replication. We've added replication job logging in the past for those of you who have worked with replication from domain to enterprise. Basically says the job is started and the job is completed. It doesn't necessarily say that it was completed successfully or that it failed. So we've added logging within the script itself that will report exactly what it's doing, and if it fails, that it did fail. It will also then report that information when we get into health monitoring. It will report the failure to health monitoring as well. Part of increasing performance is we've separated the upward and downward replication tasks. So you wouldn't have to wait necessarily for your groups and software delivery jobs that you created the enterprise to be replicated down to the domains while the upgoing job is taking place and updating all of the agents' inventory. Since those are separate tasks, you don't have to wait for the download task to finish before the upload task to begin. We've also added multi-threading to the replication tasks where the tables have no prerequisites. So basically we're saying that if there's, in certain cases, there's specific tables that don't have any prerequisites, then we can do those simultaneously to other replications going on at the same time. We're doing one replication status per asset instead of one per inventory item. So again, we're cutting down on some of the crosstalk that's needed for the replication to occur, so therefore performance is getting much better there. Logging errors and flagging a replication job if it does fail. As part of this work, we've got an added bonus out of it because as we're doing some research and changing things, some of the changes made deletion of assets and re-registration of inventory is also faster as well. So here's an example of what the replication job is doing. So if you notice, it basically tells you that it's giving you a status that it's like general inventory, 13 of 18 records have been updated. We also have errors shown there, records, basically showing records updated. Synchronization job is done, and there were some errors. It's highlighted. So again, we're getting that added reporting that we haven't had in the past. Okay, so if you would drill down to the synchronization job, the status, you'll also see that the job failed and why and what it failed with. Okay, here are some parameters of some testing that we've done. So we've basically using 7,000 hardware assets, had 5,820,000 general inventory items, 680,000 items in the general inventory tree, 1.2 million discovered software assets, 33,000 software property assets, and the replication history had 2.1 million assets to replicate. And if we come down, we look at some of the comparisons, we can see that deletion, for an example, went from 640 minutes down to 60 minutes. Replication went from 1,205 minutes to 100 minutes. Recollects went from 150 minutes to 40 minutes. The general asset collection stayed about the same. And for those of you using Oracle, here's the Oracle chart as well. Okay, let me let's see, take you over to the GUI itself. Okay, start the engine. You notice down here we have a separate download replication task and upload replication task. Normally, I would suggest putting that under separate engines. I left them here just to show that, make it easy to show that we have two of them. But normally, I would have a separate engine for uploads and a separate engine for downloads. Okay, so if we go to, well, we have actually, since I had the engine stopped, I don't have any logs, but previously I had in the log files here, kind of the same things I showed in the screenshot. We can go to the logs directory, but I've pretty much already shown it in the screenshot. But the biggest thing to notice here, though, is the two replication, or the two tasks, the upload and the download task. That's the biggest thing to notice from here. And as replication begins, you'll then start seeing that it has, it's basically showing you the status of the replication itself while it's occurring. Going back to the presentation, and another thing that we've added in 12.8 is some issues that a number of you have had with duplicate registration errors. So an asset is getting registered multiple times. That's usually based on temporary MAC addresses coming from virtual network cards and some other similar devices such as that. So I'll take you through the logic a little bit of what we've done there. Okay, so invalid MAC addresses come from virtual NIC cards or from USB NIC cards, IP tunnel, IP6, IP tunnel addresses, all generate a temporary MAC address, which you most likely would not want to be inventorying in most cases. Okay, so what we're doing is we're first determining if the MAC address is real, or if the MAC address is a temporary or not a permanent MAC address. If it's deemed as not real, we pass the MAC address within the registration as not applicable. So we don't end up evaluating that MAC address for insertion into the network tables, so we don't recognize that as a new device. So, and the engine's been modified to see if it sees an NA to ignore that MAC address in the registration process. So here's an example of the registration log file. It's determined that that particular network card is a virtual NIC, so therefore we don't want to report that MAC address. So that MAC address has been converted to NA. We've also made changes to Cora. Those who are familiar with it, basically Cora is using is using the MAC address as one of the key fields. But what we've added though or changed is the logic behind detecting whether it's a new asset or replacement asset, et cetera. So we've changed the weighting of the weight as in not time weight, but priority as to where the MAC address falls in the comparison process to determine if it's a new or replacement asset. Offline patching. In 12.8, we've added offline patching. So you basically, if you had a domain or an enterprise manager that is not allowed to be on the internet, you can basically install a separate server to be able to communicate to the internet, to get the patches, and then export those to your private network, so you can then import those into the client automation domain managers or enterprise managers. So we'll talk about the concept, the architecture behind it, installation requirements, how to accept, import, export, import a package. Okay, so the enterprise or domain is in a protected network zone. It has no internet access. Or different staff in the organization are responsible for getting and approving patches and testing and deploying them. Download and export of the package once, but import to many domains on different schedules. So again, you can have your offline patching mechanism collect the patches, and then you can deliver them to the individual domains on the domain schedule, not on the packager schedule or the package machine schedule. So the concept here is, okay, you'd have a server that communicates with the CA content team to download the patches. You would then export those patches to a directory or removable drive or wherever you want to stick them. Then you would get them to the other machine, the target, and then you would import those back in on the new machine. So your CIC manager in the offline mode will have its own GUI, so you can basically have a separate GUI to be able to manage the patches, and then you would then use the GUI on your domain manager to then import the packages. So again, so you have the user using the Patch Manager UI. When you do the installation, you can configure Patch Manager for offline mode. That's one of the options on install. So you get so you're offline. So now you perform your import operation. So you bring the package in. Your package is now ready to be exported out to your domain managers or your enterprise managers. So then you would export them there. We've also added in this version basically patch detection of client automation. So we basically created an IntelliSafe that will be able to detect an IntelliSig that's able to create or detect any client automation patches that have been installed in your environment. So we not only look for the patch, but we also look in the ApplyPTF log files. So we first look in the ApplyPTF log files to see what patches should be there. We then go further and we ensure that that patch still exists in the environment. So just because ApplyPTF installed it, we also want to validate that it's still there. So here's an example of the patches that were detected using using the IntelliSig. It not only will detect test fixes or release fixes. In this case, I only had release fixes, but it would also detect test fixes as well. Asset deletion. We've now added an easy way to delete an asset. In the past, I'm sure a lot of you are getting familiar with, if you want to delete an asset, you first had to delete its pending software jobs, its failed software jobs. That step has been eliminated. If you click on an asset, you delete it, and then it automatically goes through the process and deletes all the pending jobs to allow the asset to actually be deleted without you having to delete the software jobs first. Another thing we've added is remotely changing an agent scalability server. We've added it. You can either do it from the GUI. So basically, you would select the machine. You'd right-click on the machine. You get the list. There's a new list of option of Change Scalability Server. So you would select Change Scalability Server. It will then give you the list of available scalability servers. So you would select that particular scalability server that you want to change it to and hit OK. And that agent is now changed to a different scalability server, assuming your GUI machine has access to the agent machine. You know, if it's blocked by firewall or whatever, then obviously the command can't get through. And that option is grayed out if it is a scalability server or a domain manager. The GUI is smart enough to not allow you to change the scalability server or the domain manager scalability server. You can also do it from the CAF-set server address command line. So you can now execute CAF-set server address and specify the machine that you want to change it on, and that will work as well, again, as long as you have connectivity to your client machine from where you're running the command from. Automated migration. For those of you who've used it for Windows 7, you'll now be able to use it for Windows 8. Okay, so we've added support for Windows 8. We've added support so it now works with ITPAM 4.1. And DMM, as we talked about earlier, has now support for Windows 8 and Office 2012. So you can basically use our Migration Manager to migrate from Windows 7 to Windows 8, or from XP to Windows 8, from Windows 7 to Windows 8, from all the different combinations are available. So here's a couple of screenshots. If you notice, we've added the Windows 8 component, and under Images, we've added all the Windows 8 image types. We have ImageX, GetImage, and the standard Windows 8 image capability as well. Here's the new look. For those of you who worked with PAM3, with auto migration, PAM4, the look has changed. I mean, this functionality is still well, there's more functionality with PAM4 as well, but the GUI has changed for the better. So this is the GUI view of PAM 4.1. We still have the same wipe and reload and machine replacement tasks that we've previously had. And here's the design view within PAM again. So here you would make, like if you wanted to change the process slightly, add approvals or something within the process, you would use the design view to change the process accordingly. Okay, Web Admin Console. We've made a number of changes to Web Admin Console. We've made it more intuitive, faster access time. Basically, for faster access time, what we've done is instead of painting the whole screen, instead of bringing in all the data that might be needed by a screen, like you list all computers, for an example, instead of downloading the complete list of 4,000 computers or 10,000 computers, we bring in just the first page of data that you've asked for. So we're only bringing in a page of data at a time versus having to wait for all the data to come through and then picking and choosing which ones to display. We've also added better selection methodology, so you basically create groups, add groups, delete groups within the GUI now, and the mechanism behind the scenes has changed to make that a much more intuitive process. We've changed the look and feel of the screens to make them all similar. All functions can be done on each screen, so basically all the options available for a particular asset are shown. However, only the ones that are available to that type of asset are highlighted. The others are engraved. For example, if you select a group, if you select a machine, for example, you can add it to a group, but you can't create a group inside of a machine or inside of an asset. So that create group would not be available. But however, what would be available to you is adding that agent to a group. A group only view has been added. So there again, I'll show you in a few minutes. But so where you have all computers and all users, you now have all groups. So you don't have to navigate throughout the different groups to find all the subgroups. You can basically go to the All Groups tab, or not tab, but All Groups option, and display only group names. Web GUI functionality has been changed to I talked about that already. We've added better filtering technology. So basically, you specify a filter in the beginning, and then you can navigate to the different pages. The filters are remembered from screen to screen, so you don't have to keep on setting the filter each time you go to a different screen. So you wouldn't have to keep on typing in, find me all the machines that start with the letter A. If you're going to the group of machines in Texas, of Arizona, of France, whatever, and you want all the machines that start with A, then you wouldn't have to keep resetting the filter each time. Okay, so we'll go back to the demonstration machine again. Okay, we'll go to the home page. And while we're waiting for that to refresh, as you notice, here's the here's the status that I talked about earlier of what's being shown in the replication tables. So we're going, 38 out of 40 records, et cetera. Okay, so here, we're not talking about health monitoring yet, but I will show you something while I'm on this page here. If you notice, we have health monitoring alerts. So we have a hot link that will take us to the health monitoring GUI, which is basically the client automation web console. I imported way too many assets into my little machine. I'm not sure which is my actual window. Here it comes. Let's see.
I think your username may have been mistyped, Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's not tabbing when you type in your password, so you've got,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's doing it again, Rich.
T-O-R.
There you go.
Here it comes. not sure what's going on with this machine today. But only come back to this in a few minutes, give it time to think. And what to do is while it's running, I'll go back to the presentation. And we'll talk a little bit about health monitoring because a lot of it's going to be in there anyways. So we can look at both of them at the same time. Okay, so in health monitoring, we've added, it's been a feature that's been asked for a long time, is being able to monitor the health of client automation itself. So we basically can monitor the enterprise manager, the domain manager, scalability servers, and the agents. Detect if an agent is not functioning or unable to communicate with its server. Provide a method for administrator to select a machine and reset scalability server to which it reports. Okay, so here, let me go to from current slide so you can see a little better. Okay, so the infrastructure of health monitoring is we have a health inspector. A health inspector is basically an agent. So you'd have an agent on the domain manager, you basically have an agent, a health inspector agent on, all your endpoints for the most part, in most cases, unless, in some cases maybe you don't want to monitor your agent, so you wouldn't turn the inspector on, but in most cases you'd have your inspector on all the components within your infrastructure. Then you'd have collectors. Collectors would typically be loaded probably at your domains in your enterprise. You may want to have collectors on your scalability servers, depending on your network infrastructure and other architecture requirements. So basically, it is configured through your CCNF, which is your configuration, and it's turned on via CAF. However, it is not really a process of CAF. It's lightly coupled to CAF because obviously if CAF was down or inoperative, you'd want to be able to detect that CAF was down or that a component of CAF was down. So we've lightly coupled or loosely coupled the inspector with CAF. And we've added configuration, so you have one point of configuration, which again is within your control panel under configuration policy. Okay, so we have a persistent module responsible for raising alerts. So that's basically the inspector. So the inspector resides on any part of the infrastructure. It's loosely coupled with CAF, as I talked about. It doesn't use CAM or session messaging. It uses HTTP or HTTPS. It monitors for any notifications that are raised based on alerts that have been configured and sends the appropriate type of alert to its collector. The collector then forwards, either keeps the alert locally or forwards the alert to another collector agent. So you may want to just be sending specific types of alerts to different to different managers, or you can filter on, a certain person will see certain types of alerts. You don't want, obviously, everybody responding to all the alerts necessarily. Once you have the alert, the collector, or not the collector, the manager can then take actions upon these alerts, similar to the actions you have within client automation events. Now you can send a trap, you can send an email, you can send something to the Windows event log, etc. Okay, you would view and acknowledge all the alerts within the Web Admin Console. We've added, as I showed you, a link from the normal GUI into the Web Admin Console, so you can get directly to it if there was an alert. Alerts are forwarded to the Domain Manager or Enterprise Manager for consolidation. So if we go back to, hopefully it's back. Okay, so here's the alerts as an example that I'm getting. Software content download failed. I mean, I've actually configured these so they do fail on purpose. But you know, so these are the different alerts that I'm getting. But getting back to the console, we'll get back into more about health monitoring in a few minutes. But let me go back here to console view. We got computers and users. Yeah, this is a similar view to what you've seen before. Okay, so here is all of my. This is basically everything. If I go to all groups, this is only going to be displaying group names, not computer names. Whereas the other list obviously showed everything. So these are all the groups that I've created. Now here are the different types of options that are available. We can have a new group. We can make a group. We can't make a group based on this selection. If I would go to, let's say I go to the group, I can now add members to the group, or I can create a new group within this group. I can add a new computer within the group. And the other types of options would be available would be I can edit a group or remove, add to the group, move an item from a group to another group. I can assign an OS image at a group level or at a machine level. I can evaluate the group or I can delete the group. So those are the actions that we now have within the Web Admin Console that have been added. So if we come back to the configuration or the standard GUI, we'll go down to configuration. Now we're going to get back to health monitoring again. Configuration policy. I have a health monitoring policy that I've created. So there's a health monitoring, a new leaf called health monitoring. Now in here, there's a number of items to configure. For an example, where do you want the alert collector to report to? In this case, it's reporting to my domain manager. but that's obviously configurable. If you have a collector on each scalability server because of firewall restraints or for scalability purposes, then you would have the different agents reporting to the different, just like you have agents reporting to different scalability servers, you would have the health monitoring agent report accordingly. Alert forwarding, you know, if you want to use HTTPS or HTTP, this is where you would configure those parameters. Your alert collector address, you would specify if it's different than the standard port 80 kind of thing. How often you want it to retry, etc. Alert actions. So this is where you would configure email address configuration if you're going to be sending emails, and other types of actions configuration. So move on to action configuration. So I'll add a new one. Okay, what type of action do you want it to take? And then you would specify here. You know, if I wanted to send raise a trap. You know, where's the SNMP server? Or if I want to send an email. You know, what email address I want to send it to, or right to the Windows event log. So that's where you configure the specific actions that you want to take. Under alert forwarding, that's where you'd specify where you would, you know, which alerts get forwarded and to where. Most of what you'll be doing after you have your basic setup done will be here under alert configuration. So this is actually where you configure the alerts themselves. Okay, so these are the current alert templates that I have. And here's a list of the alerts that I have. We support, for example, we have a lot of out-of-the-box alerts, like, you know, engine job didn't complete, engine job, you know, the standard engine tasks. We already have alerts for whether, you know, CAP's not communicating, CAM's not communicating. We have alerts for that. SS not updating. We have an alert for that. But in this case, I created a script alert. So it's basically a script that the alert manager will run on a scheduled basis. You specify how often you want it to run. I normally would not want to suggest minutes, but when I'm doing testing, minutes is great, so I don't have to wait a long time. But normally, you know, so this would be a script that you can do pretty much anything. Again, you know, similar to the asset management agent. You know, anything that you can run on a command line, this script can run. So if you want to detect whether, I don't know, whether your Exchange server crashed, you could technically be measuring for that. You know, I wouldn't suggest using the client automation health monitoring tool to be detecting other applications, but in theory you could. But I wouldn't that's not its recommended purpose. Its really recommended purpose is if a software delivery job were failing, for an example, you may want to find out, CCP up and running or something, kind of thing, as opposed to, something that's totally outside of client automation is not normally what the script job would be designed for. Then you would specify at what level. Is it an agent task, a scalability server task, an enterprise or a domain task? When you flag the message, do you want it to be flagged? What priority do you want it? What severity do you want it to be sent as? And the important thing is, when you create a new one, the enable state out of the box is false. So you want to change that to true. If you don't change it to true, you'll never get an alert, and you'll be spending time, I speak from experience, of why you didn't get an alert, because it wasn't enabled. So you would basically use your templates. So if we say create a new alert, say add, and based on which template, so you'd select the template that you want to base it on, and then you would go through and create your alerts. You can also create a new template, like if you're doing script jobs, you would create a new template that would specify the script name, or you could specify the script name in the alert itself if it's a different script for each alert, kind of thing. The one thing to note, though, is that script needs to reside on the machine that's going to be running the script. It needs to be in the scripts directory. There's a health monitoring scripts directory, and it's configurable where that directory is, but the default is the base installation location of Client Automation, which is usually program files x86, CADSM, health monitoring scriptster, but that is configurable to wherever you want it to be. But that file must exist there. Okay, we'll go back to the presentation. Okay, we've also added, oops, not place here. Okay, we've also added integration with mobile device management. Mobile device management is a solution that's basically to partially manage employee-owned devices, whereas Client Automation is pretty much designed to manage company-owned devices. Okay, so we have an integration point where basically the CAMDM will update via the asset collector the data that goes into Client Automation. So you have all the data that came from MDM, and you can view it in Client Automation. Additionally, or instead of, depending on how you want to look at it, you can also view a common reporting structure. Both MDM and Client Automation bring their data into CABI. So you can generate reports in CABI that will give you views from both products. Again, the big differentiator we're looking at is bring your own device versus ones owned by corporate. So typically, the ones owned by corporate are going to be managed by Client Automation, and the bring your own device are going to be managed by MDM. And there are different licensing requirements that need to be worked out, in your particular environments as to what you as a company are responsible for supporting, on your BOD devices. Are you going to be providing any software for those folks? If you are, are you going to be owning the license, or are they responsible for the license? Those are decisions, that you're going to have to make as far as exactly what you want to manage and how you want to manage it. But this will provide you the data necessary in order to do the management.
Yeah, just a bit of some extra information there. So Mobile Device Manager manages all of the mobile operating systems, so iOS, Android, BlackBerry. It can also manage devices like Windows 7, Windows 8 for those client or end users that are bringing in their own desktops or laptops. So just a clarification on what MDM manages as opposed to client automation. So carry on, Rich.
Okay. So basically, looking at the basic architecture here, on the right-hand side, we have the MDM manager that, as you can see from the picture, we're managing cell phones there, we're managing iPads, Androids, et cetera, as Lowell mentioned. Okay, we do an MDM data extraction. We pass it through the Client Automation Asset Collector. The Asset Collector has been around for a few versions now of Client Automation. You have to enable it and things, so it is well documented how to enable the Asset Collector if you don't have it turned on in your environment. So the Asset Collector will then deposit the files to the Scalability server, which will then eventually get reported into the Domain Manager. Once it's in the Domain Manager, we're adding actually icons within Client Automation for the new different types of devices like Androids and iPhones, et cetera. So the GUI within Client Automation will have the appropriate icons representing those types of devices. Part of the work that we're doing in the MDM extraction process is we're normalizing the data so we recognize, MDM does not necessarily call memory or host name. There's different terminologies that are used. So in the extraction process, we're normalizing that data so it's the same look and feel once it's in Client Automation, in the Client Automation view. So you'd run the collection process as a scheduled job. So then daily, weekly, monthly, depending on your environment. And so those assets would be kept near real time, up to date. Once it's in Client Automation, you can then report on it, query on it, et cetera. Okay, so here's a unified view. As you can see on the top, we have iPhones and Androids. That's all we have right now in there, actually, of your MDM stuff. If you notice, it's coming up gray because it's not fully managed. It's only we can view its information, but we can't. Like through Client Automation, we can't deliver software. Your software delivery and things like that would take place within MDM itself. So we come down to the CABI report view. So here you'll notice that we have all the different assets and reporting on Androids, Apple, PC, et cetera, Dell. All the different hardware manufacturers in this view are being shown. Okay, that concludes what we're going to be releasing in 12.8. Here's a snapshot of the roadmap. Lowell, do you want to take this part?
Sure, Rich. Thank you.
Okay.
So Client Automation 12.8, which is our next release, targeted for December, going into beta in November 11th through the first week in December. And then we will start working on our Client Automation 12.9. This backlog is still being built out. We will most likely have a 12.8 Service Pack 1. So watch for updated roadmaps being posted on the support site later this month to get into more detail about what we're adding after 12.8. And Rich, did you have anything more to share today, or can we go ahead and go back to the contest slide? I would just wanted to repeat for everyone.
I'm done unless anybody has any questions. I don't know if we want to go to questions now.
Let's open it up for questions. And while we wait for a question queue to to be built. Rich, if you can take us back to the contest slide. So that information is up for everyone to review. Now this information about the contest is also posted on the community site. You'll be able to access it, get a list of the official rules and regulations. And again, that contest opens today and runs through November 15th. We will be announcing a winner on the 18th of November. So please submit your videos as soon as you can. You are able to submit more than one video if you have a lot of things to share. We will only be judging the first video that you submit based on timestamp when you post it. Were there any questions at this point?
Yes, there are a couple questions in the Q&A. And Bonnie, could you open up the lines, please?
As a reminder, to ask an audio question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad.
I don't have access right now to the Q&A because I'm not in the presenter. So Mary, perhaps either you or Rich could start reading through those. Oh, here we go. Thank you. The first one was from Salgado. Wants to know if we plan to build a migration tool to migrate ITCM 12.5 SP1 to the new planned version. We will not have a tool, so to speak. We will have documented migration paths. We will also be making a service available through CA Services for those upgrades, whether it is a out-of-the-box upgrade or if you have lots of customizations in your environment, we will be able to assist you in both planning that upgrade and executing it. So no out-of-the-box tool, but we will have services available. And the other question from Bob Morris was, will we be able to get a copy of this deck? Yes, it will be posted on the community site following the meeting along with a recording of the meeting. From Joseph, can these alarms, and this is referring to the health monitoring, be forwarded to a monitoring console such as Spectrum One-Click and Service Operations Insight Console? The answer there, and Rich, you may want to expand on this, is yes. You can collect these alerts through SNMP traps. You can send emails. We have designed it so that you are able to forward these to either third-party or other CA monitoring tools to extend that functionality. Rich, did you have anything to add there?
That covers it, or if you have a log watcher monitor your Windows event log, you can also get it from there. So there's multiple ways of getting it.
Right.
But usually the SNMP trap would normally be the way we would probably send it.
The other question from Joseph regarding CABI 3.3. You have a CABI environment already built for another CA product, CA Spectrum Infrastructure Manager, and CA Service Operation Insights. Will we be able to use that system for our CA client management environment as well? Yes, if you have an implementation of CABI already set up, there are processes to bring in the CA Client Automation Universe into your CABI infrastructure. That enables you to do discrete reporting on CA client management data elements, as well as combine those elements for a more comprehensive across-the-board reporting mechanism. So if you wanted to do reports based on the data from all of your implementations of CA products, you can also do that with that type of implementation. Another question, can the change scalability server feature be used on multiple targets at once? And Rich, I'm going to answer this question, but correct me if I'm wrong. It is on a machine-by-machine basis. For example,
what you can do, though, is you can highlight a number of machines and then right-click.
Okay, so then the answer is yes. You can select multiple machines and then do the configuration to change the server.
Yes.
All right. The next question is from David Flores. Are we moving from 12.5 to 12.8 on the agents as well? And if so, are there any issues with mixed agent levels talking to an upgraded 12.8 server? The implementation and upgrade paths start from the implementation would be from a top-down approach. So older agents can talk with the new 12.8 infrastructure. So yes, the agents will be updated with this release, but as you roll out your agents, those old 12.5 agents that you have out there can still be managed by your 12.8 management infrastructure until you complete that agent rollout process.
Except you won't get the new features like health monitoring from your 12.5 agents. Yes,
naturally. Exactly. You need to have the new agents out there to take advantage of all of the new features. But if you have a very large infrastructure, it can take some time to get your agents rolled out. So it is typical that we will support those older agents reporting to the new management infrastructure while you complete your upgrade. Were there any questions on the phone line?
At this time, there are no audio questions.
All right. I would like to thank everyone for taking the time today to listen to the call, look at the new features we have in 12.8. I would encourage you all to submit videos in our contest. And also, if you do want to participate in the beta, the registration link will be on these slides that are posted on the community shortly after this meeting concludes. If you do have any issues with registration, please email me directly, and my contact information is also in the slide deck. Thank you, everyone, for your time today.
Thank you. This concludes today's conference call. You may now disconnect.